Take it away.
Very good, thank you. Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to say I'm really grateful to be back in the Philippines. This is a personal connection for me. My daughter, like so many Americans, raised by Filipinas, her brother from another mother. She's a Filipino kid. She probably speaks more Tagalog than me, although she definitely does. She eats regularly at Jollibee in New Jersey. She's more intimately acquainted with Sinigang and John. 10-year-old kid, a 10-year-old American kid who likes balut is a rare thing to find, but she adores it. So I'm personally very grateful to be back here and talking to you today. I'm just going to talk a little bit about my connection to street food and why I think this Congress is important, and then I'd be happy and grateful to take some questions. Look, I'm often told on my show, in response to the show I make Parts Unknown, don't talk about politics, stick to the food. And that's true enough. I am not a journalist. I like to identify myself as an enthusiast. But in fact, there is nothing more political than food. Food is a reflection, maybe the most direct and obvious reflection of who we are, where we come from, what we love, who eats in a country, who doesn't eat. The things that we eat are a direct reflection of our histories. You know, the ingredients, whether they're dried or pickled or preserved, these are reflections of often long, very painful histories. That's how we got to these dishes. I often say that, you know, wealthy cultures that have been lucky and fortunate and prosperous generally don't cook very well because they never had to. It's the cultures who've had to struggle and make the most of what little they have, who have over time learned to make wonderful things out of, well, all the things that I love and most of my chef friends love. You know, the hooves and the snouts and the tough bits. Cooking is about transformation, about taking what we have, however little that might be, whether it's a pigtail or a pig foot. You know, you may not be able to grill it, but over time you learn how to coax flavor and texture and magic out of a humble ingredient like that. So street food in particular is important. First of all, as a practical matter, please understand that at least as far as the American tourist is concerned, right now, as I understand it anyway, when asked, when polled, the number one determining factor for American tourists to decide where they're going to go and spend their tourism dollar, number one answer is the food. That's often, if not predominantly, the driving influence as far as where am I going to go and spend, 2 weeks of vacation. I can say personally, arriving in a country that doesn't care about food, I'm a guy who travels 250 days a year and have done so for the better part of the last 17 years. It is a misery to arrive in a place and understand immediately, well, people here don't particularly care about food. This is a horrifying realization. It's like meeting someone at a party and they say, I don't really care about music. It's like, wow, okay, what are we going to talk about now? Food is something I'm passionate about, and food is something that every culture clings to. It is a reflection of who we are. Someone is always telling you a story when they cook for you, when you allow them to cook for you, when you sit down without judgment or preconception and say, what do you do that's good? What's your best shot? I'll have that. Often what you have, often delivered in a very intimate way, something you eat with your hands, something, a street vendor in Mexico who, rolls up a taco and hands it to you. They make it with their hands. They hand it to you with their hands. They make it fresh. This is an intimate transfer going on. They're not just making something with their hands and giving it to you, placing it in your hands. They're telling you, this is where I come from. This recipe is a reflection of, maybe what my parents taught me. my grandparents. It's a reflection of my region, my language, my culture, my history. And most intimately, they're saying, look, this is what I love. This is what I'm good at. This is who I am. And I would like to share it with you. This is why street food is so, so vital. I have to tell you, I hang out with a lot of, I don't want to brag, but a lot of the greatest chefs in the world, 3-star Michelin restaurants, are very good friends of mine. And when they knock off their shift at the end of the night, they do not want to go out to sit down at another 3-star Michelin restaurant. This, for most of my friends, would be a living hell. 4 hours, 19 courses, 17 bottles of spectacular wine. Okay, that sounds like a good thing, I'm sure, to most of the world. But not to them. What chefs crave, people who spend their lives working with food, what chefs crave after work is a simple, good thing. Whether it's a bowl of pasta, whether it's a bowl of pho in the street, or bun bo hui, a banh mi, some spicy mapo tofu, some lechon, something you could eat with your hands and experience emotionally, not critically. I don't want to evaluate food. I'm not a critic. I was 30 years in the restaurant business. I don't want to think about my food. I don't want to evaluate it. I don't want to write down tasting notes or score it on a basis of 1 to 10. I don't want to think about my waiter or whether the busboy is doing their job. I don't want to be aware of what's happening in the kitchen. I don't want to hear the bell go ding when it's time for my food and wonder, I hope that's my plate. No. I want to experience food emotionally, like a child. I want to be lost in the moment. I want to take a bite of food that takes me to another time and another place. Whether it's my childhood or somebody else's childhood. Anybody's grandma's food is preferable in my mind than a fine dining restaurant in almost every case. Now, street food is under threat. Street food, I will give New York as an example, is seen, first of all, as unsanitary. It's seen as a quality of life hazard, meaning, who are these dirty people in their trucks or their stands on the corner? It smells, it doesn't look, it doesn't fit in with the real estate. It's taking away business from brick and mortar standing restaurants. I say that's bullshit, particularly in New York. New York is a city of immigrants. It's not a place, it's an idea. It's a place where everybody is from someplace else. We have representatives of people and cultures from all over the planet. And it's been that way since the very beginning. And yet, shockingly and scandalously enough, we don't have a real market. We don't have a place like Singapore has, like Hong Kong, like Padang, Vietnam, like Oaxaca for that matter. A place you can go, a democratic space, where people value a good bowl of noodles or the best taco in town for $1.95 just as much as the lark's tongues in aspic at Alain Ducasse, because they are equally as good. No less a chef than Ferran Adria gave actually I believe he was quoting the great French chef Jacques Maximin, who used this wonderful example. He said, which is better? Better, not more expensive. Which is better, the truffle or the peach? The truffle, same size, $1,200. The peach, maybe $2 for a juicy, ripe peach. We know which is rarer. We know which is more expensive. But which is qualitatively better? And this is a thing that has always enticed me and attracted me and made me respond emotionally again to Singapore. Is that you have, first of all, you had a problem. You had street vendors and a nanny state government that doesn't like dirt or disorder. They managed in Singapore, to my mind anyway, to solve this problem in an elegant way. They at least understood that street food and these heritage street vendors, multi-generational operations of of people who have been doing more or less the same thing very, very well over time. That these were businesses worth saving. That this is something to be treasured and preserved. That the terrible onslaught of fast food restaurants and generic chains, I mean, has the appearance of a Starbucks ever in the history of the world been a good sign for a neighborhood? No, it is a sign of the apocalypse. You know, Singapore at least understood this is a good thing. Let us find a way to save it. They moved it all indoors, into enclosed spaces. They imposed certain regulations to ensure safe food handling. But you can still go to this cleanest and most orderly of city-states, and you can line up with people rich and poor, all of whom value the $2.95 bowl of noodles or a plate of noodles just as much as something in a fancy restaurant. They understand and appreciate that this is a vital thing worth hanging on to, that it is a good thing. Why don't we have this in New York, or Europe, or the rest of the world for that matter? It's shocking to me. We like food. We're enthusiastic about food. We blog about food. We Instagram it relentlessly. We can't even enjoy food without taking pictures of it and sharing it with other people on the web. We experience food almost in a completely different way these days. Why can't we have this? And this is a question that I and Cito and many others have been asking ourselves in New York, and why we've been trying to put together this enormous project in New York that will finally, we hope, bring together in one place the kind of things, in fact, specifically some of the people who do what they do so well and have been doing so for a very, very long time. You know, when you go to, I'll tell you a story. Maybe the worst meal of my life was, I'll name the name. It was noon. I was on book tour. I found myself at an airport. There was nothing open but a Johnny Rockets. And I thought, how bad could it be? I'll have a cheeseburger. And I walked up to the counter. I was the only customer in Johnny Rockets. And there were 3 cooks, a manager, and a cashier standing there. And I said, I will have a cheeseburger, please. At which point one of them walked over to the grill, picked up an already fully cooked cheeseburger, plopped it onto a stale bun, half on, half off, reached into the fry basket without even giving the already cooked French fries another dunk in the hot grease, reached in, threw them on the plate. Remember, there's like 5 people standing there. I'm the only customer. Walked over, put it down in front of me, and pushed it forward. And we looked at each other, all of us. I looked at the cashier, I looked at the manager, I looked at the cooks, and I realized we all shared a moment of perfect misery. They didn't want to be where they were. I didn't want to be where I was. They understood that they were at the tail end of a long, crushing corporate machine that just didn't give a fuck, and so did I. Street food is the cure to this. It's that single person or limited number of people who have figured out, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm proud of, I'm pretty sure I make the best version of this on the block because I have to, because 4 stalls down, somebody else is trying to sell the same thing. You see this market force at work very much in Singapore. That is a beautiful thing. And to the extent that we can celebrate that, the extent to which we can preserve it, and the extent to which we can replicate it or bring it to places like New York, Paris, San Francisco, Los Angeles, surely the world will be a better place. So I thank you, and I'd like to open up the floor to any questions.
Anthony Bourdain, ladies and gentlemen, and yes, I'm sure we got questions. We want to start.